After the divorce, my older brother forced his young son onto me. From now on, he's your son. He'll take care of you in your old age. That child was a troublemaker. When I disciplined him, my older brother accused me of being heartless when I let him run wild. He said after all, he's not your biological son. After struggling to raise him for several years, I moved with my adopted son to the county seat and worked as an embroiderer to pay for his education. He passed the provincial examination. But I was worn out. On my sick bed, my adopted son said to me, "Mother, the medicine is ready. Drink it while it's hot." I drank it. Little did I know, that would be my last sip. When I opened my eyes again, my older brother was there, trying to foist another child on me. I grabbed a fire poker and, in front of the neighbors, beat his son until he was rolling on the ground. I turned to look at the little beggar in the corner. He was skin and bones from hunger, yet his eyes shone with an eerie intensity. "Do you want to be my son?" he asked slowly. "Will you beat me? It's fine if you do, as long as you feed me." A younger boy beside him tugged at my sleeve. "Mother, I can take the beatings. And I don't need much to eat." Main text. On the very day my dowry was brought back, my eldest brother arrived with his young son. With so many people at home, there's simply no room. Living alone isn't bad, but it's too lonely. I'll adopt my youngest son into your family. That way, you'll have someone to care for you in your old age. How could there possibly be no room in my family's 5-courtyard mansion? It was merely that my father-in-law, Minister Zhou, had been falsely accused, and the entire family exiled to the frontier. My husband Zhou Yan had voluntarily sought a divorce from me, though I was spared the agony of exile. I remained the former daughter-in-law of a convicted minister. My eldest brother feared being implicated by me and coveted the dowry I possessed. So he devised a plan to have his young son, Xin Yaozhu, adopted by me. He didn't know that, aside from this small courtyard, there was hardly anything left of my dowry. When the Zhou family was sentenced to exile, I read they would suffer on the journey. So I entrusted others to make arrangements, and my dowry flowed out like water. In my previous life, I believed my eldest brother had adopted his son to me out of genuine concern for me. I devoted myself to raising Xin Yaozhu, and to raise the funds for his tuition. I embroidered until there wasn't a single spot of healthy skin left on any of my 10 fingers. On the day Xin Yaozhu passed the provincial examination, I fell ill and lay bedridden, unable to rise. He brought in some medicine. "Mother, drink this while it's still warm." After I drank it, I was struck by unbearable abdominal pain and demanded to know why Xin Yaozhu had poisoned me. "You, a discarded wife of a convicted official, have usurped my mother's status. How am I ever to establish myself in the bureaucracy?" That was my final waking moment in my previous life. Now my eldest brother has brought him before me once more. My eldest brother pushed Xin Yaozhu forward. "Zhaoning, I'm adopting this boy to you as a support. I've already taken care of the household registration. If I call you mother, you have to feed me meat." Xin Yaozhu shouted at me, tilting his face upward. "Little sister, this child has no other hobbies." My eldest brother chuckled from the side. "He's just a glutton easy to feed." A glutton. I turned and grabbed the fire poker from the courtyard. "Then he needs a good lesson." The poker landed squarely on Xin Yaozhu's buttocks. He let out a howl and darted 3 zhang away. "You dare hit me? What's wrong with hitting you? Just because I'm your mother doesn't mean I can't discipline you. You're not my mother. You're my good-for-nothing aunt who got divorced." I swung the stick and chased after him. Beating him, Chen Yaoshu darted around the courtyard, wailing loudly, drawing neighbors and passers-by who poked their heads out to gawk at the spectacle. Qin Zhaoning, you've lost your mind. My eldest brother's face turned green. If you beat him to a pulp, who's going to take care of you in your old age? If you don't discipline him from a young age, he'll be even harder to handle when he grows up. I stopped and looked at him. Big brother, if you have a problem with how I raise my son, go ahead and take this brat back. My older brother was at a loss for words, seeing that I'd stopped. Shen. Yaoshu crouched in the corner and began to cry, just as I was about to chase after him to continue the beating. I noticed someone else crouched on the other side of the corner. It was a young beggar. Skin and bones, that face looked very familiar. As if I'd seen it somewhere before. I waved him over. Come here. He stood up and shuffled slowly toward me. Do you have any family left? He didn't answer, just looked up at me, his eyes full of wariness. Do you want to be my son? I'll provide food and shelter. He stared at me in terror, then glanced at the fire poker in my hand. He took a deep breath and asked, will you hit me? Hitting is fine, as long as I get fed, perhaps fearing I might change my mind. He added, even if I don't get enough to eat, as long as I don't starve to death. In my previous life, the young servant whom Shin Yaozu falsely accused of stealing money and who was subsequently beaten to death used to say most often, it's fine if the young master hits me, as long as I get enough to eat. But that servant was already 15 or 16 when he died. By now, he'd be 9. The little beggar in front of me looked to be about 6 or 7 years old. However, in my previous life, the servant had mentioned having a younger brother whom he'd later lost track of. Could this be him? Before I could take a closer look, another child darted over from the side, tugged at my sleeve, and cried out, Mother, Mama, I can take a beating too. And I don't get much to eat. The first little beggar quickly pulled this child behind him. My little brother is too young to take a beating. I'll take his place, but I can't take much of a beating. He was clearly terrified. Yet he still mustered his courage to negotiate with me. If you beat me too badly, it'll be a waste of food. I couldn't help but let the corners of my mouth curl up. The older brother hurried over to stop me. 2 little beggars from the street, you want to take them in too? I ignored him. The older one was clearly the young servant who, in my past life, had been falsely accused of theft by Shin Yaozu. I had once wanted to send the young servant to work as an assistant at the embroidery shop. He refused, saying he hoped Shin Yaozu would take him along after the imperial exams and becoming an official, so they could find his lost younger brother. That's why I didn't believe he'd stolen the money. I'd intended to report it to the authorities, but my older brother claimed he'd taken the boy to the magistrate's office, only to return and say the servant had run away along the way. It wasn't until Shin Yaozu saw that my poison was taking effect and I wouldn't live much longer that he smuggled. Why recounted every evil deed he'd committed to me, now that I've taken them in. I'm making amends for dragging that servant to his death in a past life. The little one is quick-witted too. Seeing my older brother trying to stop me from taking them in, he quickly said, I can work, I can do anything. He even nudged the child behind him forward. He can sweep the floor. The child spotted the broom on the ground and rushed over. When he picked it up, he realized it was taller than he was, so he just dragged it along as he swept. I couldn't help but laugh. My older brother flew into a rage. Qin Zhaoning, did you hear what I said? I turned to look at him. If you think they're unworthy of being my adopted sons, then take your youngest son back. Father, I'm not staying here. Shin Yaozu jumped to his feet and clung to my older brother's leg. I want to go home. My older brother glared at him, trembling with rage. After a long moment, he ground out through clenched teeth. Fine. I agree to let you adopt them. Then let's go. You lead the way. Older brother agreed, going to register their household. While registering them, I asked the two children their names. They both shook their heads. We've been little beggars for as long as we can remember. I named the older one Xin Zheng and the younger one Xin Yu. When the registrar asked their ages, Xin Zheng said he was 9. After we finished the registration and stepped outside, I turned to my older brother and said, I have my son. Now. Take Yaozu back. He snapped. We've already registered them. You can't just say you don't want him now. When you shoved him on me, you said it was to take care of you in your old age. Now that I have 2 sons of my own, naturally I don't want this one you forced on me. After all, he's my eldest brother's son. I can't hit or scold him. Am I supposed to keep him just to support him? My eldest brother's face flushed with anger. Do you raise sons just to hit and scold them? Hearing this, Xin Zheng stepped forward to shield me. If mother hits me, she must have a reason. I'm willing. Xin Yu came up close to me, tilting his little face up and rubbing his head against my palm. Mother, hit might won't hurt. I smiled, reached out to lift Xin Yu, and said to Xin Zheng, come on. Let's go home. I won't stop you from taking these 2. My eldest brother blocked my path again. But Xin Yaoshu must be the eldest son. I laughed in exasperation. Xin Zheng is 9. And Xin Yaoshu is 8 this year. By age, he can only be the second son. Why should I be the second son? Xin Yaoshu grew anxious. Father, you said everything of hers belongs to me. My eldest brother clamped his hand over his mouth. I smiled. Now that I have 3 sons, Yaozhu is second in line. Even if something were to happen to me, he'd only get a quarter of the inheritance after all. The eldest son gets a double share. My eldest brother's face turned livid with anger. Finally, he flung his sleeves and stormed off, leaving Xinwei, Aozhu behind. I led the 3 of them back to the small courtyard. As soon as we entered the courtyard, I had my attendant, nephew, boil water for the 2 children to bathe, and sent the maid, Xing'er, to the street to buy clothes for Xin Zheng and his younger brother. Once everyone had gone about their tasks, I turned to Xin Yaozu. From now on, you'll have to learn how to cook. He clutched his bottom and protested. But I don't know how to cook. If you don't know, you'll learn. I led him toward the kitchen. He trailed behind me, grumbling under his breath. I glanced back at Xin Yaozhu, and he immediately shut up. Start by cooking porridge for yourself. Once you've got the hang of it, then you can cook for everyone else. He flew into a rage. Which of those maids or attendants can't cook? I'm here to be your son, not your servant. I raised an eyebrow at him. If you don't want to do it, you can leave right now. Your father hasn't gone far, can still catch up. Xin Yaozu was both anxious and furious. Aren't you afraid that later on, I won't take care of you in your old age? He's still just a child. Using that to threaten me, I turned and walked away, ignoring him. When Xing'er returned, she was followed by a restaurant waiter carrying a food box. Xin Zheng and Xin Yu came out after bathing and changing into fresh clothes, dressed in their new outfits. The Wa brothers looked much more lively, though they seemed a bit at a loss, as if this were the first time anyone had treated them so kindly. As soon as they entered the room, they knelt before me and kowtowed. Your sons kowtow to mother. I hurriedly helped them up. Can you cook? We can eat. Xinyu answered loudly. Xinjing quickly covered Xinyu's mouth. He doesn't know how. And neither do I. But I'm willing to learn. I had Xinger bring out the food we'd ordered from the restaurant. Today is your first day in this home. So we'll eat what we've bought. Now on. You'll have to cook for yourselves. Xinjiang and Xinyu looked at the plain congee and simple side dishes in front of them. Then glanced at the rice and braised pork on my plate. Saying nothing, they just stared longingly at the congee. Then stole a glance at me. I didn't explain that since they'd gone hungry for so long. Gorging on rich, fatty foods would upset their stomachs. Eat up, I urged them. You'll have to cook your own meals starting with the next meal. Just then, Xin Yaozu came in from the kitchen, seeing the food on the table. He lunged forward. Only to be grabbed by the collar by Ah Fu. Is that any way for a mother to act? He pointed at me. They're all your sons. Why should I have to cook for myself while they get to eat restaurant food? Xinjiang and his brother were so frightened by him that they put down their bowls and dared not move. It's already humiliating enough that I have to be brothers with two beggars, Xin Yaozu shouted, pointing his finger at my nose. And you want me to cook for myself? Let these two little beggars eat store-bought food. You're my own aunt. Yet you prefer these fatherless, motherless street urchins. You're nothing but a slut. He was about to continue his tirade when Xinjing stood up. Staring straight at Xin Yaozhu froze under his gaze. The words on his lips choking back. We have a mother. We're not orphans. Xinyu ran to stand in front of me, glaring at Xin Yaozhu. You're the slut. Sit down and eat. I looked at Xin Yaozhu. If you don't learn how to cook today, you'll go hungry. Xinjing glanced at me, then slowly sat back down and continued to sip his porridge. Hen Yaozhu was dragged into the kitchen by nephew, who grabbed him by the back of his collar. After the meal, Xinjing picked up his bowl to wash it. I gave Xinger a look to stop her from helping, and Xinyu also grabbed a dishcloth to wipe the table. Once the two children were done, they ran into the room and looked at me. I called Xin Yaozhu in as well. All three of you are my adopted sons. You must get along well from now on. From now on, you'll cook your own meals and wash your own clothes. Before I could finish, Xin Yaozhu snapped at me. You treat us like we're your own children. Yet you won't even look after us. And you won't even let Xinger, this maid, cook and do laundry for us. Are you raising sons? Or hiring servants to wait on you? Because I'm pregnant. She needs to take care of me. No sooner had the words left my mouth than 3 pairs of eyes turned to my belly in unison. Xin Yaozu froze. Xin Zhang's eyebrows twitched. But he said nothing. Xin Yu ran over, carefully placing his hand on my belly, and looked up at me, asking Mother, is there a little brother in here? I stroked his head. We don't know yet. It might be a little sister. But my eyes swept over Xin Yaozu. Zhou Yan knew I was pregnant, which is why he initiated the divorce to ensure the Zhou family had an heir. But in my previous life, this child never made it to birth. After Xin Yaozu found out I was pregnant, he deliberately tripped in front of me. I reached out to help him up, but he yanked me down hard onto the ground. I lost the baby. This time around, I'll kick him out of this house before he has a chance to act. I didn't send all 3 children to the same school. Xin Yaozu had been studying there for 2 years and had built his own network of connections. Sending Xin Zhang and his brother there would be like sending lambs to the wolves. I found a private school near our home and sent Xin Zhang and his brother there to study. When Xin Zhang was cooking and learned that they also ate white rice and white flour, he cooked enough to feed the Lu family. He even came to me privately. Mother, My second brother's cooking is terrible. From now on, I'll handle the cooking. Before long, I noticed that whenever Shen Yaozhu approached the kitchen, Shen Zheng and his brother would follow him. This ruined my plan to catch Shen Yaozhu red-handed. But I didn't reveal my thoughts to N Zheng and his brother. I simply waited for another opportunity, seeing that he couldn't tamper with my food. Shen Yaozhu kept trying to get close to me. The Shen Zheng brothers watched him like he was a thief, taking turns keeping an eye on him. Once, I teased Shen Yu in private. You're so clingy with your second brother, never gives you a friendly look. That's not true, he protested. Second brother says that once mother gives birth to the baby, she won't love us anymore. He also said that it's fine for him to have biological parents, but that we brothers will be abandoned by mother. Big brother shot back right then, saying that even if mother gives birth to he child, as long as she feeds the two of us, that's enough. Second brother stormed off in a huff. Big brother is afraid second brother might harm mother, so he said that whenever he's away from home, one of us must stay by mother's side to keep an eye on her. I ruffled Shen Yu's hair. So are you afraid that after mom gives birth to the baby, she won't be nice to you and your brother anymore? No, he said it loudly, then glanced at me. Then will mom still look out for us brothers in everything she does? Big brother said mom didn't let us go to the same school as second brother because she was afraid he'd bully us. I looked at the unease in Shen Yu's eyes and bent down to meet his gaze. You see, mother was already expecting the baby when she arranged her schools. Once he's born, you'll be his older brothers. He'll have to call you big brother and second brother, follow right behind you, and grow up learning from your example. Shen Yu's eyes grew brighter and brighter, completely forgetting that he was currently the third child. Then will he listen to us too? Of course. You're his older brother, so if he doesn't listen to you, who else would he listen to? Shen Yu happily ran out to find Shen Zheng to share the joy of becoming a big brother. 2 months passed, and my pregnancy was already showing. That day, I was basking in the sun in the courtyard when Shen Yaozhu came in. Shen Zheng and his brother stood on either side of me. He approached me holding a bowl of mung bean soup. Mother, it's hot out. Have a bowl of mung bean soup to cool off. Just put it there. He sheepishly set the bowl down but didn't leave. He stood there staring blankly for a moment, then suddenly crouched down, clutching his calf. Ouch! I've got a cramp. I looked down, already prepared to step back. In that split second, Shen Yaozhu lunged toward me. Shen Zheng acted quickly, stepping in front of me and shoving him away with all his might. Shen Yaozhu fell to the ground, clutching his leg and wailing. It hurts so much. Shen Zheng remained rooted to the spot, leaning on the chair, his face pale and his forehead covered in sweat. Uncle Nephew. Shen Yu had already rushed out, shouting, second brother is trying to hurt mother. What nonsense are you spouting? You little beggar. Shen Yaozhu's leg pains seemed to vanish instantly. He jumped to his feet and began cursing. Nephew rushed in a few strides and grabbed Shen Yaozhu by the back of his collar. I stood up, leaning on the chair, and looked down at Shen Zheng. Are you hurt? He shook his head. It doesn't hurt. His face was clearly contorted with pain, but he was afraid I'd worry, so he gritted his teeth and endured it. I looked at Shen Yaozhu and said to Afu, take him back to my eldest brother. He tried to cause a miscarriage. I don't want the son. Shen Yaozhu panicked. You can't kick me out. I've already registered here. I'm your son. Son. I looked down at him and pointed to Shen Zheng and his brother. My son is right here. After Shen Yaozhu left, my older brother didn't come looking for me. I had planned to have my older brother transfer Shin Yaoshu's household registration back after I gave birth. Now that this has happened, I sent Shinger to the escort agency to hire a bodyguard to escort us to the capital. Little did I know that the next day, Shin Zhang and his brother returned, both with bruises on their faces. They claimed they'd fallen on the way. Fallen. I looked at Shin Yu. Did you fall because you were skipping and jumping along the way? Or did Shin Yaozu swing you around and throw you down? Mother. I wasn't skipping along. And Shin Yaoshu couldn't have lifted me up, pushed me over. After saying this, Shin Yu covered his mouth and turned to look at Shin Zhang. It was Shin Yaoshu who brought men to beat us. Seeing he couldn't hide it anymore, Shin Yu blurted it out. He blamed my brother for meddling and protecting mother. So he beat us. I touched his face. Swollen like a pig's head. Does it hurt? No. Shin Yu grinned. I almost bit Shin Yaozu's nose off. You're such a fool. I took the ointment Shinger handed me and applied it to his face. Why didn't you run home and call Uncle Nephew to deal with them? Brother was already struggling to fight 3 of them. If I'd run away, it would have turned into 4 against 1. I set down the medicine jar. Your brother holds them off up front while you run out to the street to call for help. That's what I call using your head. With your little baby teat. You wouldn't even hurt Shin Yaoshu if you bit him. You're beaten up like this. No, it's just a case offering the enemy 800. But losing 1,000 of your own. Having one more person get beaten up won't help at all. He blinked. Next time something like this happens, call for help. For your brother first. That'll minimize the damage. Okay. As he spoke, he tried to throw himself into my arms. But Xinjing pulled him back. Mom's carrying a baby. I walked over to Xinjing with the medicine pot. He instinctively flinched back. Mom. I'm fine. Lift your head up. He slowly lifted his head. His eyes were swollen shut, and his face was covered in bruises. I dipped a cotton cloth in the ointment and gently applied it to his wounds. His eyelids twitched with pain, but he didn't flinch. Does it hurt? He shook his head. Tell me the truth. He gave a soft Do you know where you went wrong today? I shouldn't have fought. I caused trouble for Mother. Your mistake was being too confident, thinking you could handle everything on your own. My hands never stopped moving. You fought 3 of them. So what if you won? If you can't beat them, run. Come home and I'll make sure they pay for it. He froze, then looked at my slightly rounded belly. Mother has a baby in her belly. She can't take risks. Before, I didn't have anyone to back me up, so I was afraid to fight back when people beat me. Today I didn't lose. My hands paused, and my eyes stung with tears. I sent Shinger to hire bodyguards. When 5 lean, capable bodyguards stood in the courtyard, I led Xinjiang and his brothers out the door. We were headed to the courtyard where my eldest brother now lived. Ever since Minister Zhou was framed and imprisoned, my family's business had plummeted. Those customers who had once come to the restaurant specifically because of the minister's residence fled faster than anyone else. My eldest brother was set up again and gambled away that 5-courtyard mansion. Now the whole family is crammed into a single small courtyard. The lead bodyguard kicked the door open. The people eating in the courtyard stared at us in terror. Qin Yaozhu. Come here. My eldest brother stood up. Qin Zhaoning. You've really made something of yourself. What are you doing bringing all these people to our home? With a single glance from me, Qin Yaozhu was grabbed by the bodyguards and forced before me. So, did Ah Fu bring him back that day without telling you? Brother, does he want to get rid of the child in my womb? My eldest brother gave my belly a dismissive glance. The offspring of a traitor. If it's gone, it's gone. Yao Zhu is your son too. Making such a scenario. You ashamed. Ashamed. I shot him a sidelong glance. Brother, Have you forgotten how you abandoned me all those years ago? My older brother's expression darkened. When I was 6. You left me at the market under the pretense of taking me out to play. Later, slave traders picked me up. If I hadn't been quick-witted escaping and saving Zhou Yan in the process, how would our family ever have connected with the minister's household? Have you forgotten just how much you've profited by clinging to the Zhou family's influence? Now that the Zhou family has been framed, you turn your back on the man, even try to step on your own sister. My older brother's face turned pale and green. I looked down at Xin Yaozu, who was pinned to the ground. Beat him. My older brother rushed forward to stop them but was held back by 2 bodyguards. As the bodyguards' fists landed, Xin Yaozu's wails filled the air. Stop hitting me. Mother. I've made a mistake. What mistake? Xin Yaozu tried to crawl toward me but was kicked away by Xin Zheng. I handed the horsewhip to Ah Fu. Beat him hard. I don't care if you kill him's my son anyway. Xin Yaozu's eyes were filled with terror. It's not my fault. It was father. He said that as long as you get rid of the child in your womb and eliminate brother Xin Zheng, everything you own will be mine. You little bastard. Shut your mouth. My older brother's eyes turned red with fury. I'm not lying. You said that even if Auntie were divorced, her dowry would still be worth a fortune. If I'm adopted by her, all that will be mine in the future. Neighbors poked their heads out, murmuring among themselves, unable to break free from the bodyguard. My eldest brother had no choice but to soften his tone. Zhaoning. Back then it was father who wanted to sell you. I took you away from home to find you a way to survive. I couldn't be bothered to listen and simply ordered Ah Fu to act. I pulled the Xinjing brothers in front of me and addressed the onlookers. These are the sons I've adopted, just because they were protecting me. Xin Yaozhu has been beating them. As I spoke, I signaled Ah Fu to continue whipping Xin Yaozhu. Once adopted by me, they are my sons. A creature who poisons his adoptive mother deserves to be beaten to death. Mother, save me. Terrified, Xin Yaozhu wailed to my eldest sister-in-law. I don't want to be Auntie's son anymore. Mother, I'm flesh of your flesh. My eldest sister-in-law tugged at my eldest brother's sleeve. My eldest brother opened his mouth to speak, but I glared him back into silence. I looked down at Xin Yaozhu. Who are you calling mother? Since you don't want to be my son, I'll grant your wish today, just beat him to death. Ah Fu's whip cracked through the air with a sharp crack. Someone in the crowd shouted. Who needs a son who betrays his own family like this? Beat him to death. With someone taking the lead, the neighbors joined in the shouting. Right. He deserves to be beaten to death. To harm his own mother while she's pregnant, is he even human? Beat him hard. Xin Yaozhu cowered in fear, forgetting even to cry. Little sister, I know you're angry. My eldest sister-in-law stepped forward to take my arm, but Xinger stopped her. Qin Zhaoning, what exactly are you trying to do? My eldest brother roared at me. Do you want to ruin the Xin family's reputation? You and your father are both plotting to murder for gain. Why should I care about the Xin family's reputation? I pointed at Xin Zheng, his brother Xinger, and nephew. If I lose my life, it won't just be one body, it'll be 2 lives lost. If you take my property, will you spare their lives? Ever since I was a child, I've been nothing but a cash cow for the Xin family. Now that I refuse to play that role anymore, does that make me a criminal? Fine, Xin Zhaoning. From this day forward, we're severing our sibling ties. My eldest brother trembled with rage. I couldn't agree more. I pulled the letter of severance from my sleeve and held it out before him. My elder brother froze. You had this prepared all along. I pointed at Xin Yaozhu. When you adopted your youngest son into my family, I thought that if I treated him with care, it would eventually bear fruit. until he tried to abort the child in my womb. And then I discovered that you had deliberately abandoned me all those years ago. That's when I realized some roots are rotten from the start. My eldest brother gritted his teeth and pressed his thumbprint onto the document. I tucked the severance document away, turned, and walked out, with Xinjiang and his younger brother flanking me on either side. Back home, I told the Shinbro the RS I'd take them to the capital to study. But they shook their heads vigorously. Mother, I don't like studying. I want to join the army. I looked at Xinjiang, who had shot up to nearly half his height. You're just a bit taller than other kids. You're a JRE, not even an adult yet. What army are you talking about? Mother, I want to learn cooking. Xinyu turned to me and said, wait until the little brother in your belly is born, and send him to school. I laughed in exasperation. We don't even know if the one in my belly is a boy or a girl. Even if it's a girl, I'll send her to school someday. I okayed at the two of them and paused. If it's a boy, though, that's a different story. Even if the baby takes my surname Shin after birth, the label-off grandson of a trader from the Zhou family will still follow him. He won't even be allowed into the exam hall. So don't worry about money. Focus on your studies for now. I looked at the two of them. I'm making you study. Not so you can chase after some title or position, but even if you don't continue your studies later on. A cook needs to be able to read recipes, and a soldier needs to understand military manuals. Qin Zhen. Ji lowered his head, saying nothing. Doesn't giving birth cost money? Qin Yu blinked. Once the baby is born, we'll need to hire a wet nurse, and mother will need to observe the postpartum confinement period. There are plenty of expenses. Hearing this, my eyes stung with tears. So what? My older brother and I can go earn money first. Xinyu lifted his little face. When the baby grows up and needs to study, we'll come back to study with him. Xinjiang spoke up. Mother, if I join the army and return with military honors, I'll be a pillar of support for my younger brother and the baby. I knew they must have seen that I'd been focusing solely on my pregnancy lately and mistakenly thought there was no income coming into the household. In reality, I'd get for someone to lure my eldest brother into gambling, and half of the money he lost ended up in my hands. But I couldn't tell Xinjiang and his brother that. I patted Xinjiang on the shoulder and ruffled Xinyu's hair. You two come with me to the capital first. Once we're settled. If you want to be a cook, be a cook. If you want to join the army, join the army. But first, you must learn to read and write properly before thinking about anything else. Once we were settled in the capital, I refurbished the shop that the Zhou family had given us as part of the betrothal gift all those years ago. It was part of my dowry and had been sitting empty all this time. Now that the embroidery shop was up and running and bringing in income, the two brothers no longer had to worry about money at all, and could focus on their studies with peace of mind. Once everything was settled, my due date arrived. The delivery went fairly smoothly. After a long night of labor, the midwife emerged holding the swaddled baby to announce the good news. Madam, it's a boy. Xinjiang and Xinyu had just returned from school. Without even stopping for a meal, they waited at the courtyard gate. Only after I had been tended to did Xinger let them into the room. Xinjiang stood by the bed, staring at the wrinkled little bundle for a long while before blurting out, Mother, I'll find a pretty wife for my little brother. Our someday. Wow's so ugly. Xinyu blurted out, then froze for a moment before quickly adding, but it's okay. If little brother looks at big brother and me more often, he'll grow up to be handsome. After saying that, he reached out to touch the baby, but pulled his hand back just as his fingertips were about to touch the swaddling cloth. Mother, his hands are so tiny. Qinjing asked cautiously from the side. Mother, should we give our little brother a name? Sure, Xinyu chimed in from the side. I'll name him Xinyi. It means he's the only treasure in our whole family. Qinjing said. I'll name him Xinchuan for a long life. I couldn't help but laugh. Why do both names have so few strokes? There's a student at the academy named Zhao Yaolin. Every time he takes an exam, it takes him forever just to write his name. Qinjing smiled sheepishly. I just wanted to give him a simple name so he wouldn't cry when writing it later. Then the eldest son's name will be his formal name. And the second son's will be his nickname. The little one on the bed kicked his legs, as if in agreement. When Xinchuan was 5, he heard the sound of a zither coming from the neighbor's house and stood by the wall listening for the entire afternoon. When he came back, he tugged at my sleeve. Mother, I want to learn the zither too. I went to the merchants to inquire. The cheapest one cost 50 taels enough to feed our whole family for a year. Just as I was weighing whether to wait a little longer, someone came to our door delivering a zither. The man introduced himself as an attendant to the crown prince of the duke's household. This is my young master's old zither. He said it's for your eldest son to practice on. With that, he set down the instrument and took his leave. Qinchuan spotted the lute and pounced on it, running his hands over it again and again. Qinjing explained to me. Mother, Zhao Yaolin, one I mentioned before, is the crown prince of the duke's house. He saw I didn't have a lute to practice with and said he'd give me his old one. I thought he was just talking, but I never expected him to actually send someone to deliver it. I didn't believe him, but I asked. Anyway, you'll be taking the imperial examination soon. When will you have time to practice the zither? He brushed it off casually. But my younger brother likes it, doesn't he? Let him learn it first. I looked at him. So, you're the one officially receiving the zither, but it's actually for your younger brother. Qinjing remained silent. Have you thought about how you'll repay the favor of receiving this zither? He hadn't expected me to ask that and shook his head. Zhao Yaolin treats you as a friend, not so you can take advantage of him. I've never interfered with whom Xinjiang and his 2 brothers associate with. I've only taught them how to avoid being exploited. I never imagined he'd be the one exploiting others. If I don't set him straight now, I fear he'll suffer a great loss in the future. Xinjiang's face paled slightly. He lowered his eyes and said nothing. After a long moment, he looked up. But if we return this zither, it would be a blow to Crown Prince Zhao's pride. Then don't return it. I turned to Xinchuan. Keep the zither, but you must pay for it. We'll calculate it at 500 taels for depreciation. Pay 50 taels tomorrow, and the rest in installments. Qinjing panicked. 500 taels. Xinyu cried out. Mother, I was the one who told Crown Prince Zhao that my brother wanted to learn the zither. Why don't I take credit for this instead? Qinchuan stroked the zither and looked up at me. Mother, I don't want this zither anymore. Let's return it. Your 2 older brothers love you and went out of their way to get this zither for you, so we'll keep it. But since it's for your passion, our whole family will have to tighten our belts for a while. You must study hard. After that day, I had Xinger manage our finances carefully. Original. Why? The embroidery workshop only accepted work from embroiderers. But because of this, I also picked up my needles again and embroidered a double-sided piece. Qinjing came to see me privately. Mother, I was wrong. I know you meant well for my little brother. I softened my tone. But have you ever considered what would happen if he gets used to getting whatever he wants, and the 2 of you older brothers go out of your way to get it for him? If this goes on, won't you 2 end up being nothing more than his cash cows? Qinjing was silent for a long time, then finally nodded slightly. Mother, I understand. It's not that I don't care for Xinchuan. It's just that in my past life, for Xin Yaozhu, I gave everything I had to fulfill his every demand. I thought that was caring for him. That was loving him. But in the end, I raised a thankless wretch. I don't want Xinchua and to grow up under the pampering of his two older brothers and come to see their sacrifices as a matter of course. From that day on, Xinjing took on a job copying texts every night by lamplight. He copied text stroke by stroke, saving every copper coin he earned in a small box. After Xin Yu passed the Shoukai examination, he refused to take any further exams. Mother, I want to go into business. I want to start by working as an assistant and earning money while gaining experience. I shot him a sidelong glance. You just want to earn money to help the family pay off that Ether. Don't you? He gave a silly chuckle. Xinchuan poked his head out from the side. Second brother. That zither is mine. I'll pay it back myself. How old are you? How are you going to pay it back? I'll practice hard. Later, I'll play at the embroidery workshop and collect tips. Xinyu laughed. By the time you're collecting tips from playing the zither, the debt on that instrument will have grown moldy. After saying that, he turned to me and said, Mother, just agree to let me do this. Besides, I actually enjoy cooking. It's not all about paying off the debt. Just then, the sound of a zither drifted over. Xinchuan sat before the instrument, playing with the utmost seriousness. The cheerful melody lifted everyone's spirits. When the piece ended, Xinchuan stood up and looked at me. Mother, why don't I go play at the embroidery workshop and collect some tips? So young and already obsessed with money. Xinyu gave Xinchuan a playful headbutt. Xinchuan rubbed his forehead, speaking with righteous conviction. The whole family went into debt because of my interests. It's only right that I do what I can to help. Xin Zheng, who had remained silent the whole time, couldn't hold back any longer. He crouched down, pulled Xinchuan into his arms, and said, his voice trembling, I'm sorry. I was being too presumptuous. I walked over and patted his shoulder. Between brothers, it's not about giving each other the best, but doing what you can. I paused, looking at the three of them. But I have some good news. That double-sided embroidery at the shop sold for 300 taels. If we chip in a little more, we'll be able to pay it all back. All three of them froze in surprise. Xinchuan was the first to react. He wrapped his arms around my waist. Mom's the best. Xinyu muttered. Does that mean I don't have to work as a shop assistant anymore? Xinjiang's eyes were still red, but the corners of his mouth turned up. I could have come up with those 500 taels of silver from the very beginning. I just wanted to use this to make them understand that all feelings are mutual. 3 years later, Xinjing won first place in He imperial examinations, and Xinyu passed the provincial exams. During the palace examination, Xinjing did not hide the fact that his adoptive mother, was the former daughter-in-law of the convicted minister Zhou. Moreover, he presented evidence right there in the hall to clear the Zhou Emily's name. That evidence had been gathered bit by bit over the years by Xinjiang, leveraging the connections of the Duke's mansion. My foster mother, Lady Shen, divorced Zhou Yin back then not out of cowardice or fear of death, but to preserve the Zhou family's bloodline. Minister Zhou was framed. There are hidden circumstances behind the examination scandal. I implore your majesty to investigate thoroughly. The emperor was furious and issued an edict ordering a retrial of the examination scandal. I was in the embroidery workshop when I received the news. The needle in my hand paused. And I remained motionless for a long while. Xinchuan was practicing the zither beside me. He stopped and asked, Mother, what's wrong? I replied that nothing was wrong and lowered my head to continue embroidering. But no matter how I tried, I couldn't get the needle through the thread. I had thought that Xinjiang, having grown close to the Duke's mansion over the years, was simply looking for a shortcut. It turns out had been laying this groundwork for so long, not for himself, but so that Xinchuan could participate in the imperial examinations openly and honestly. When I adopted Xinjiang and his brother all those years ago, I only wanted to make amends for my failure in my previous life to properly guide Xin Yaozhu, which had dragged Xinjiang down with me. I never imagined that, as soon as he came of age, he would want to protect this family. But perhaps heaven cannot bear to see people too perfectly blessed. Just when I thought life would only get better, Xinchuan disappeared. The day, I ran into some Xin family members at the embroidery workshop. During our casual chat, I learned that my eldest brother's family had suffered a series of misfortunes over the past few years. First, Xin Yaozhu fell gravely ill, running a fever for 3 days and 3 nights. When he woke up, he was acting erratically. He'd tell anyone he met that he was Chancellor Zhou's adopted son, so his family locked him away in the back courtyard. Later, his 2 older brothers went hunting in the mountains and were caught in a torrential rain and landslide. Not even all their bodies were recovered. My eldest sister-in-law lost her sons one after another, overcome with grief. She didn't survive that winter. The clan member lowered his voice. No one knows how your eldest brother fell into the river. By the time they pulled him out, his body had already bloated. No one paid any attention to that madman. Before long, the courtyard was empty. My heart grew cold as I listened. Xin Yaozu wasn't mad I had been reborn. Could it be that after my death, Minister Zhou successfully overturned the case, and Zhou Yan adopted Xin Yaozu as his adopted son? It wasn't impossible. After all, to outsiders, my affection for him was genuine. Xin Yaozu, using his status as my adopted son, would have gained Zhou Yan's favor. Now, after Xin Yaozu killed my eldest brother's family and vanished, could he have come to the capital? I jumped to my feet and rushed outside. Back home, the courtyard was eerily quiet. Xinchuan would usually be practicing the zither at this hour. The zither was still there, but he wasn't. I searched every room. He wasn't there. Xinyu returned from outside and noticed my pale face. Mother, what's wrong? Where's your brother? Wasn't he practicing the zither? I just heard the sound. Before I could finish, I had already rushed out the door. At the entrance to the alley, a tiny shoe lay on the ground. It was Xinchuan's. Tucked beneath the shoe was a letter. Make those 2 filthy beggars leave, and I'll come back to be your son. Otherwise, I'll never see your youngest son again. The Xin brothers moved out that very day, but secretly asked Crown Prince Zhao for a few skilled attendants to lie in wait near my home. That evening, Xin Yaozhu led Xinchuan back. Xinchuan looked well enough and addressed Xin Yaozhu as brother every time. Mother, I shouldn't have listened to outsiders' instigations. Having lived this life over, I now realize you were sincere toward me. As Xin Yaozhu spoke, his hand clenched Xinchuan's arm tightly. When I adopted you, I was sincere. Xinchuan is your younger brother. Why did you tie him up? Xin Yaozhu smiled gently. Mother, you're joking. How could I have tied him up? I took my little brother out to play. Xinchuan turned to me and said, Mother, this big brother took me to eat candied hawthorn. He even bought me lots of toys. He tilted his little face up, his eyes sparkling. Not a trace of fear from being tied up, but because of the height difference. I could see Xinchuan's small hands clenched tightly behind his back, just like his 2 older brothers. This child was putting on a brave face so I wouldn't worry. Chuaner may be a child, but he's becoming quite sensible. I looked at Xin Yaozhu. Are you sure you want to negotiate terms with me in front of him? Xin Yaozhu looked down at Xin Chuan. Be a good boy. Big brother needs to talk to mother for a moment. Go play over there for a bit. Xin Chuan scurried to hide behind Xinger. The composure from earlier gone from his face. I was only testing Xin Yaozhu. But I didn't expect him to let Xin Chuan off so easily. Could it be that he'd poisoned him beforehand? Mother is assured. I haven't poisoned my younger brother. Xin Yaozhu sensed my concern and laughed. After all, I still want to be your son. I looked at him. You killed your 2 older brothers. Didn't you? Your mother died of poisoning. And you killed your father too. Mother. What are you talking about? You don't need to play dumb anymore. If you hadn't come to provoke me, I naturally wouldn't have meddled in your affairs. Xin Yaozhu's expression hardened. He pulled a dagger from his robe and twirled it in his hand. Mother. Have you been reborn too? Why didn't you teach me properly in this life? If you had, I would have been the top scholar too. What do you mean by reborn and past lives? We were surrounded by people from the Duke's mansion. I wasn't foolish enough to admit it. I heard you'd gone mad. It seems that's actually true. You kidnapped my son. And you expect me to be your mother. You're dreaming. Xin Yaozhu froze for a moment. Then laughed. Since you don't want me as your son, I don't need to hold on to our past bond anymore. He raised the dagger and lunged at me. A shadow swept past me from behind. Delivering a kick to the back of his knee, Xin Yaozhu crashed to his knees, the dagger flying from his hand. As the Duke's men pinned him to the ground, Mother, I truly want to be your son. He struggled to lift his head, still shouting, You're my mother, you should treat me well. I stepped forward and kicked him. I've rejected my 3 capable sons and you expect me to take a murderer like you as my son. Xin Yaozhu was sent to the Jingzhou prefecture. The prefect investigated his background and discovered he had killed his own father, mother, and 2 older brothers. According to the law, he was to be beheaded. Before his execution, I went to see him one last time. He huddled inside the PRI sun cart, disheveled and filthy. But his eyes lit up when he saw me. Mother, have you come to take me away? I said nothing. He continued to cry out. Mother, it's Yaozhu. You loved me the most. Why won't you have pity on me? Xin Yaozhu, I called out to him. Some people, no matter how many chances you give them, are simply beyond redemption. With that, I turned and walked away. Behind me came his howls, growing fainter with each step. Thanks to Xin Zhang's relentless efforts, the Zhou family's case was finally overturned. The evidence framing Minister Zhou was proven false, and His Majesty issued an edict to clear his name and restore him to his former post. Zhou Yin also returned to the capital and came to see me. I didn't go to see him. I simply sent Xin Chuan out so the father and son could reunite. I didn't want to mend a broken relationship. There was no need. From the information Xin Jing uncovered during his investigation, I discovered that when Zhou Yin married me all those years ago, it was not only to repay a life visa debt but also because the minister's household needed an in-law of humble origins who would be easy to manipulate. Minister Zhou was innocent in the examination scandal, but his hands may not have been entirely clean in other matters. He acted as a backer for my eldest brother, taking a large share of the profits. That is why my eldest brother mistakenly believed that after I divorced Zhou Yin, I could bring all those benefits out of the marriage. And so he was determined to have Xin Yaozhu adopted by me. Zhou Yin may well have known all this, but he never said a word. I don't blame him. But there's no need to rekindle our past ties. Qin Zheng's efforts to clear Minister Zhou's name were not motivated by a desire to wait for the Zhou family's reinstatement so they could become his own backing. It was for Xinchuan's sake, though Xinchuan bears my surname. His Ho bloodline cannot be altered, with the label of being the grandson of a convicted minister. He cannot take the imperial examinations in this lifetime, now that the Zhou family's name has been cleared. Xinchuan's path is finally truly open. The sound of a zither drifted in from outside the window. It was Xinchuan practicing a new piece. He was playing better and better, his fingers dancing across the strings like a joyful bird. Qin Zheng sat beside him reading, occasionally glancing up at him. Qin Yu came in carrying a plate of pastries. Mother, try these, I just learned how to make them. I smiled. Now I have 3 sons, a embroidery workshop, and a life I've earned on my own. What more could I ask for to repay the man who saved my life and schemed against me? The story ends here. Thank you all for your companionship. See you in the next one.